Hi, my name is Shanice, and I would love if you would join me while I take a stroll down memory lane to talk about my journey into nursing thus far and reveal my future plans for what's to come. So, all of this started many years ago. I come from a long line of healthcare professionals in my family. The eldest being my grandmother, who was a charge nurse in the emergency room for over 40 years. And so that wasn't quite enough for me to want to be a nurse, but I've spent many days in a hospital as a child walking the floors back when take your child to work day was a thing. And I would just run around the halls, and I remember being so inspired. And I always loved medical shows, and I'm like, man, I have to be a part of this. So as I went through school, I was trying to decide which path to take, and I ended up becoming a medical assistant before I graduated high school. My school happened to offer a program that allowed students to do that. So I began as a medical assistant. I didn't work that very long. Then I went on to become a pharmacy technician, where I stayed for about 8 years. And in that time, my father in 2013 tragically passed away. He was very young. He was 48. And he went to the hospital. He was a very healthy man. He really didn't have any health issues. But he went to the hospital, which was unlike him, because he said his throat was hurting. And I remember speaking with him a couple of days before that, and his voice sounded really raspy, but it was around New Year's. And so I remember thinking, man, he's partied really hard. So it went to the hospital, and they discharged him with the prescription. We later found out they never really looked at his throat. So when he came back to the hospital that same evening, he was admitted to the trauma unit. But by the time they got to him, it was too late. He had an abscess in his throat that occluded his airway, and they couldn't save him. So my grandmother still was working at that hospital in the emergency department at that time. She was a night nurse. And so when she got to work, she went back there and she saw her son laying there. And she pulled his shoes off and saw that his feet were blue. And she asked how long had he been without oxygen. And the response that they gave her was that they didn't know that he was her son. That was really the defining moment for me, because I remember thinking, now what in the world does that have to do with anything? So I decided to embark on my journey to become a nurse, because I wanted to be the change that I would like to see in the world of healthcare, where we treat human beings as individuals, regardless of where they come from and who they are, that we do our best to save their lives, to promote the best quality of lives. And so that's really how I got started. It took me a while to get my prerequisites done and find a nursing school in North Carolina to go to, because I'm originally from West Virginia. So there was a waiting period and all these bumps in the road. But eventually we got there, and so I completed my 2-year nursing degree at Davidson County Community College. And then just as things were about to complete, the pandemic hit. So I remember we went on spring break in March, and then we never returned to school. So I finished my last semester of nursing school, transitioned totally online, and it was just a crazy experience. And not to mention, in the midst of the pandemic, my eldest sister was in a very serious car accident where her leg went up inside of her body. So she had a really long recovery, and I was running back and forth from North Carolina to West Virginia to help her and try to be a nurse for her. And, I'm a new nurse who feels like I know nothing, but I was doing my best to try to help her as much as I could. And then my youngest sister was diagnosed with breast cancer. So we were dealing with that and trying to just, encourage her and see her through that journey. But she is in full remission and everybody's doing well. And then to put the icing on the cake, I was engaged and I had been in a relationship for quite a long time and set to get married. And then my fiance was in the Midwest working and was in a fatal motorcycle accident. So all of these things happened within a period of about 5 months, and I just wasn't sure that I was going to be able to see it through to the finish line, but by the grace of God, I did make it through. And so I decided to just kind of hit the ground running in the midst of the pandemic. I didn't go into the hospital. Instead, I did home health. I was working on a temporary emergency permit for nurses who had graduated during COVID because we weren't able to take our NCLEX exam due to limited availability. So I wasn't able to take my exam until just this past December. But it went really well, obviously, because I'm still here. And now I work in community health and in home health. I have majority veterans and pediatric patients. But I do get to see a few different things, not as much as I would in the hospital, obviously, but I love being in the community because of just the different relationships that I'm able to maintain and connect with and network. And also being able to follow through on the cases is really good for me because I'm able to really individualize and tailor the care and walk with them along their journey and just keeping that rapport built up so that I can encourage compliance and promote the best outcomes for my patients. So that's currently what I'm doing right now. And I work night shift majority of the time, but I have a couple of patients I see throughout the day. So sleep's like not a thing anymore. And I've recently been offered a position to do COVID testing in Mecklenburg County schools. So I'll add that in the next coming weeks and we'll just see how that goes. But I have enjoyed it this far. I always look forward to learning new skills and, relying on that nursing school knowledge. I find myself referencing my textbooks a lot and all of my notes. And I'm a big nerd. And so I love to learn. I love to know the why behind the what and do my best to explain to members of my community what I know, anything that I know. And as well, I love to learn from them because they certainly do teach me a lot. I'm currently in the process of joining a nursing organization. It's the Black Nurses Association. So I'm set to join them in the upcoming months. We have to wait until the next conference. Like we do some virtual things, but the pandemic had slowed down all of the conferences. But the tale is that they are going to reopen that. So I'll be glad to join them for that. And then I am currently also working on getting my BSN. This is a fast moving course. And this week's been very, very crazy, but I am hanging on in there and almost to the end. So now that I know what it's like and know what to expect, I'll know how to manage things going forward. And I do look forward to completing my BSN degree here at UNCW. It's a really great program. Beyond that, I will go to get my nurse practitioner degree. My sister is a licensed counselor and she just opened a mental health practice in West Virginia where we're from. She's going to have a ribbon cutting ceremony soon, so I'm super proud of her. And so mental health is obviously a great need all over now, especially with the pandemic, but it always has been. I'm just happy now that it is getting the attention that I feel like it deserves. So I will very likely join her in some of those ventures, whether we stay local in our hometown or expand to other places. We like to think big because we want to help as many people as we can. So So far, those are the plans. I know I do still have quite a ways to go, but I embrace the journey and I look forward to learning everything that I can and growing to be the best nurse that I could be and to give the best patient care that I can. So thank you for listening, and I'm so sorry that this is late. I had a lot of unexpected things happen this weekend, but I still wanted to share with you a little bit about me. Okay, I'll talk with you soon. Bye.